History is the clock people use to tell their own time. It is the compass that they use to find themselves on a map of human geography. Your history will tell you important things: where you from, where you are, and most importantly, where you should go. My family has always been a close-knit group. My grandmother and her 9 children, 5 girls and 4 boys, consider themselves best friends, and their close relationship is based on a community way of life. When my family moved from Georgetown to East Austin, Texas in the early 1900s, times were much different. The family was a nation with contributions from every member. Inside the segregated East Austin community, the family survived on working together and community for the betterment of all. Most of the jobs for males included bus boys and landscaping and working with your hands, and for women it included working inside the house and being maids for white families. They had an economy without money. They grew their own food, and when they harvested and jarred food, they would trade amongst the community. So everyone who had more would trade, and everyone would get their equal share. This was life, this was community, this was family. This way of life represented an idea. I am as we are, and we are as I am. My Aunt Bobby's house at 5405 Coventry Lane represented the family headquarters and my second home. Everything I needed and wanted was at this place. This was the house where I was most likely to see other family members because you never knew who would stop by. It was the house that fed me when I had no food, the house that taught me how to cook and clean, and it even provided money through odd jobs around the house. Because of my collective upbringing, I've always tried to recreate this utopia among my peers and professional environment. I never felt comfortable inside distant relationships and could easily treat my friends and coworkers like family. This can backfire because when you treat somebody like your family and they desert you, it can be painful, really painful. An example of this backfire can be described when my mother married a man in prison when I was age 5. For 12 years throughout grade school, I called inmate 491982 Brent Gordon in Huntsville Correction Unit my father and visited him once a month. While caring and opening my personality to him, I learned to love him. At age 17, he was released from prison and quickly divorced my mother, and she has not been the same since. I have to learn that there is nothing wrong with trying to recreate family everywhere I go, but I must learn to appreciate my own positive aspects without depending on a nurturing environment from my workplace or my friends. The fear of being alone, the fear of not contributing to a team, and the fear of inadequacy are feelings I must watch closely. I have potential, but dependence on other people can inhibit me in the future. Culture is more than a set of values and beliefs. Culture represents a code of conduct and a method of which people satisfy its needs and solve its problems. A culture is ultimately within the minds of a people. The most influential woman in my family culture is my great-grandmother Cora Blaine, also known as Bammy. She was raised in the post-slavery South, and she drew her strength from the Baptist church, which was the center of the community. She would wake my aunts and uncles up to gospel song and daily prayer. Sunday mornings were an event where everybody would get dressed up and head to church as a unit. This was a way of life. Along with the gospel and family, Bammy also emphasized that hard work was essential to get ahead in life. Since my family feels so strong about their values, they have little tolerance for a diversity of thought. So when I begin to ask questions like, why do we do the things we do? Why do we seem to lack despite our hard work? And even worse, why doesn't God look like me? It was met with strong opposition and criticism. I understand it's hard to move beyond the realm of your understanding, especially when something is so significant in your life. My family's attempt to rectify my way of thinking into theirs was their attempt to save me, and in essence, showing how much they care about me. My history and culture are predominantly influenced by a lineage of strong women. And since the women have raised the family, the men and the women in the family tend to reflect the values that my aunts shared, and that is focusing on the family as opposed to what the men were stressed, and that is being the providers and the protectors. I still hold the values my great grandmother Bammy taught my family, with the only difference being I value self knowledge. The slight difference in belief affects the way I act in a work setting. I advocate critical thinking, moving outside your comfort zone, and reflection so people can ascertain meaning for themselves. The downside to this is I tend to question all forms of authority, sometimes to a fault. The characteristic is highlighted in my LSI results, which indicate that I always look for flaws and have a tendency to ask tough probing questions. As a professional, I need to do a better job of listening to others' opinion and being constructive without finding errors. I am a clean-cut black male. I get my high cheekbones and my flat moles from my mother, and I get my smile and my dimples from my father, who I've never met. Those are shown in the media. Usually, I am not impressed at all. When I look inside the media, this is what I see. Black males are portrayed as gangsters, athletes, or entertainers. Studies show black males have the highest rates for murder, imprisonment, and highest rate of unemployment. The disadvantages of my cultural capital are evident, and I realize a lot of times in order to be accepted, I must transform into a new person. Many times I feel I must switch my language, my demeanor, and my mode of thinking to be around diverse people. If I do not make the switch, I limit my opportunities. I instantly know when I am the only black male in the room and will assess the situation and determine my behavior based on my reflection. One good thing about my cultural capital is if I make a face like this, I can get people to leave me alone and not bother me at all. Overall, I feel comfortable I can live inside two worlds, both my culture and the dominant culture if I choose to be. I know if people rarely see black men outside the media, it is easy to form a stereotype. I define power as the ability to influence people and ultimately solve their problems. Whoever controls the socially prescribed goals can therefore manipulate behavior by determining what are the rewards and what are the punishments of society. An example of this is my name. My mother named me Christopher Ryan deliberately because she thought it would look good on a resume. I wonder how my resume would appear to people if my name was Malik or Raheem or Quantrell. This shows a power relationship and the things that black people must do in order to function within the dominant society. Sometimes they have to make sacrifices. I am constantly tightroping between two worlds. On one side, there's my culture that helps me stay true to myself, and on the other side is the dominant culture, which I must participate in order to make a living and to quote unquote be successful. If I lean too far to the left, I risk not being able to provide for myself. And if I lean too far to the right, I risk being disconnected with my culture and forgetting who I am. In summary, my history and culture have a huge impact on me as an educator. My collective upbringing makes me favor group learning, hands-on instruction, and building lasting relationships. I understand I have low cultural capital, and sometimes I must do what I have to do in order to do what I want to do. I enjoy working with students with low cultural capital and empowering them to help themselves. This project has helped me accept the highs and lows of my life and draw positive lessons from these experiences. I consider it a true educational experience. Education is a balancing act between the inculcation of information and the extraction of innate talent. Therefore, education must teach a level of competency to show a level of ability and capability within students. It must share acquired immunity so students don't make the same mistakes repeatedly, and ultimately it must make them a responsible wielder of power so they can solve their own problems in their community. As a leader, my job is to lead from the front and be a reflection of the student I want to teach. Each one, teach one.